kept pushing on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. Just call me. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds, and when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. Just call me.
Welcome everybody into Sim Racing Media. Tonight we have the Dynasty Racing League Pro Series at Rockingham. These guys hit the high banks of Daytona last week with Austin Collins bringing home the win. PJ O'Leary in second. James Pandolf finished third. The man who dominated most of that race, Richard Springer, wound up mired back in 7th position. But tonight is a new night as they are getting ready to start qualifying here. I am Mike Damoni. Joined with me this week is Mac Nelson. Mac, how's it going, man?
You know, it's going good, Mike, and something I was trying to wrap my brain around today while I was thinking about, how this session was going to go is there's a lot of speed that these drivers are going to be carrying coming into turn 1. And I think, just my hot take of the night, that turn 1 is going to be where races are made and braked. That doesn't sound really good, but they're going to make or break themselves into turn 1.
Yep, and as you see right there, James Pandolf threw down a lightning fast lap and looked like he got a little loose coming into turn 1, which is going to probably slow him down on lap 2. But lap 1 was a 24:40. Good enough for the provisional pole right now. They're pretty much flying through this qualifying session here.
Yeah, this course is, super small in, when you think about the grand stages of, racing circuits around the United States here. Last week they were at Daytona, the second biggest track on the calendar, assuming they're going to go to Talladega. So, you got to kind of switch gears in these cars, you know, because these cars are technical. These cars will squirm on you and they will spin around. That rear is extremely easy to lose. So these guys are going to have to keep it clean. They're going to have to keep it technical, and they're going to have to keep it tidy.
Yeah, definitely. Austin Collins jumped up to pole position with the 24.31. Like Matt Metler's out on track.
Matt Medler, we'll see what he can do this week. He was probably had the move of the race, in my opinion, last week with that amazing run he had to get past 4 or 5, maybe even 6 cars coming out of turn 4 at Daytona. So we'll see if he can carry that pace here this week, as it looks like he is surrendering his lap right now.
Yep,
20 that or he is finished.
Yeah, 25.61. But yeah, I talked to him after the race last week, and he said he figured out how to make the runs there. And he was trying to time it at just the right time because he was kind of going back and forth trying to figure out how many cars he could pass and how long it would take. And then that late race caution came out, and it kind of reset his race and didn't give him the chance to use his speed he had to get to that front. Larry McKenzie Jr. with the 26.56.
Unfortunately, just a little off the pace here for McKenzie Jr., who had a really good run last week at Daytona. Unfortunately, a late race caution was something that he got involved with, and I think it set him back a few positions. So we'll see if he can be a little luckier here this week.
Like everybody's hustling through here. Got about a minute left to get your laps in if you haven't got them in yet. Jeffrey Banks with a 24.47. Harrison Chandler here trying to get his first lap down. Coming to that start-finish line. 26.18. So it looks like we're kind of going to have a tale of two different races here.
Yeah, so I think what's probably going to happen is, you know, like you said, it's going to be two completely different races, probably two sets of drivers on completely different strategies, because, you know, you can be slow when it comes to, you know, the lead pace, and you can still yield good results. You know, if you can keep that slower pace for a lot longer, maybe that's what will set you apart from the other drivers, because if you're going a little bit slower but can maintain that pace for 30 more laps, then the leaders can maintain their super fast pace, then it should kind of even out because of tire wear. And, you know, that's something that I'm really looking forward to seeing here.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see, as these guys get gridded up, see if we can get the pole setter here, Austin Collins, to come up to the booth. Hey, Austin, Mike, and Mac up in the booth. How's it going, man?
Oh, not too bad. I don't know where that lap came from, but here we are.
I want to say, it looked like you were flying out there. You obviously figured something out. You were able to get past Pandolf and got up to the pole. How's the racetrack out there?
I didn't get much practice, but what I did get, kind of tight on entry. So you really got to back up your corners, but then if you're trying to carry too much speed middle off, it can really upset the car and backing come around on you. So it's going to be a lot of fun here, trying to just fight the car and the track, and then you had all these other drivers out here, so it'll be a lot of fun.
Definitely. Well, I'll get you back to your team there, but congrats on the pole, and maybe we'll talk to you after the race.
Hopefully.
That was Austin Collins' pole position. He also is last week's winner, so we will we'll see if he can go back to back. First opportunity for someone to do that. Let's go ahead and run through the grid. We have Austin Collins, James Pandolf, Jeffrey Banks, Harrison Chandler, PJ O'Leary, Matt Burgess. Then we've got Sam Niederhelm and Dustin Musil, Larry McKenzie, and Matt Medler inside that top 10.
Yeah, and then you got Chris Melton here, P11, and then outside row 6 is going to be Paul Pellissier. And then P13, Robert Holder, P14, Richard Springer, and rounding out the grid is going to be Dave Acacia. I'm so sorry. Butchered that, but he will be in P15.
Acacia. Yep. The lights are out on the pace car. We are set for 197 laps.
Whew.
Bring up that all-important weather as the pace car makes that hard left-hand turn. Austin Collins with the button, and he is down and away. Gets a pretty good jump there. James Pandolf trying to hold off that outside line, but Harrison Chandler is able to stick that nose in front just a little bit as we go through the first lap here.
Yeah, that start by Harrison Chandler was nothing to sneeze at. He got right on the side of the 74 of James Pandolf there, and he's actually going to slide in front of Jeffrey Banks. Well done from him. James Pandolf looking super quick as well through that first lap, but Austin Collins, he is out with a vengeance already, putting a 6/10 of a second lead over P2 James Pandolf there.
Yeah, Larry McKenzie got a little loose there. Started sliding towards that outside wall. Luckily, everybody else were able to check up. And we stay green here, working on lap 3 right now.
Yeah, and if these drivers can stay clean and we get these long green flag runs, Mike, it's going to be a story of tire wear. And I'm interested to see how these drivers approach this, because this is a track where you've got to get down, you've got to get your elbows out, and you've got to do some real racing in order to, have some pace here. But to have some pace here, you're also going to need to wear your tires out. So, like we were saying before, like you said, with the tale of 2 races, I'm just curious on where that's going to put everybody here in about 25, 30 laps.
Yeah, definitely. As these guys kind of sort it out amongst themselves towards the back. Up front, though, it's Austin Collins and James Pandolf. Looks like these two guys might have put in a little bit of work, because they are a tenth or so faster than the rest of the field for the majority of the laps here. But looking at the weather, the track temp is 110 degrees right now. That is going to be slick. And as these tires wear, you're going to see these guys start sliding a little bit more. And it will also change how they, when they get tires, how that car feels after driving, say, 50, 60 laps on them.
Yeah, but luckily for these guys, they're also going to be applying rubber on this track surface, so the grip is going to increase throughout the day, but the tires are also going to fall off, and it's going to make it hard to navigate through that grip. So fresh tire runs here late in the race are going to be extremely quick, but that also means that these old tire stints are going to get extremely tricky throughout the entire race.
Yeah, definitely will. Let's trying to see if anybody's making some big moves, but not really. Everybody's kind of staying about where they started. Richard Springer and Dave Acacia up 3 and 4 positions there.
Yeah, we've got Harrison Chandler, who I praised for a good start, down into P7 now. Not sure what happened with him, but he looked really good through those first 2 or 3 laps.
Well, and that's the other thing. You're sitting here looking at the way some of these guys are driving. Are they using up their stuff a little bit too much? And maybe Chandler's just gonna let the race kind of come to him, so to say, and have the fresher tires towards the end of this run, because the way these guys run, if we get these long green flag runs, tire wear and your lap times towards the end are gonna speed up.
Yeah, you've hit it right on the head there, and it just makes me kind of wonder how the draft is going to be throughout this race as well, because these straights are long, but they're not really long enough to warrant overtakes from the draft itself. So going into that corner, you're going to experience some dirty air, and that's going to get someone here like Sam Niederhelm, who was behind Harrison Chandler, here right now with James Pandolf and Austin Collins. Either one of the two they're going to wash up into these corners because of the dirty air. They're not going to be able to apply that grip down on that bottom line, and it might spell trouble for them in their tires because they're going to have to rotate the wheel more, which means they're asking more of their tires, which means they're going to lose grip faster.
Yeah, definitely. And as we were kind of talking pre-race there, you know, that first corner, especially if you start getting that draft, you're going to have to kind of back up the corner a little bit, and that's also going to allow the other driver to get right on your bumper. And depending on how well you guys work together, could spell either disaster or it could make you faster through the corners.
126 miles per hour is the slowest that Austin Collins just got in turn 1 right there. They are carrying so much speed into these corners, into the turn 1 especially, that, you know, you just got to think that at some point in the night, stuff is going to get wicked.
Yeah, I mean, not exactly sure how the fuel run's going to shake out, but I bet when it starts to get towards that, say, 40 laps or so on these tires, if they keep up this pace and they don't start kind of backing up those corners, you're going to see them start to wash up the track and maybe even get that rear end sliding almost in front of the front when they come to that turn 1, because they're just carrying so much speed through that turn 1, like you've been saying.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And Austin Collins right now is just putting on one heck of a show, but can't knock James Pandolf and, you know, Jeffrey Banks for that matter. Jeffrey Banks was not in the equation a few laps ago, and he has gotten that pace up. He looks like Lightning McQueen in the Piston Cup final in that first movie. Doc said, get that lap back. And sure enough, Jeffrey Banks is really putting it on, almost catching up to James Pandolf entirely.
Yeah, as we were kind of flipping through the drivers here on track, it seems like they're able to catch the car in front of them relatively easy before they get into the corner, and then as they go to as they carry in that extra speed, it kind of washes them up the track a little bit, and then they have to try and rebuild that run again. Kind of as you're seeing here, you'll see the 29 get pretty close to that rear bumper of the 12 and then kind of just slow down a little bit as they go through the corner.
Yeah, overtaking in the corners is going to be extremely difficult until we get to really, really old tires where you're having to play with that brake and that throttle pedal a little bit. That's when we're going to be able to see these overtakes in the corners. But for right now, there's just really no way that it can be done unless you assume that position on the inside before the corner begins.
Yeah, we've kind of seen the way these guys are running. There's no real overtakes happening. Everybody's just kind of getting pretty close to the car in front of them and just kind of, I don't know, biding their time, I'd say. So it's definitely going to come down to pit strategy and how well you saved your tires, I believe.
Yeah, this track is a defender's dream track. You know, if you're a defensive racer and, you know, you're really good at holding the people up behind you and not allowing them to overtake, then you're going to love this track because, you know, like we've been saying, overtaking around this track is extremely difficult. So if you can just keep your pace up and not make mistakes and keep on that optimal racing line, you don't even have to be that quick. It's just that hard to overtake around the outside that you're more than likely not going to concede the position. As you see, Jeffrey Banks there has tried outside, hasn't gotten anything to stick. And so now he's looking into diving on the inside in these corners, but unfortunately he just doesn't really have the space. But James Pandolf starting to wash up just a tad bit, entering those corners. We might be seeing an overtake here in the next 3 or 4 laps.
It's almost like he gets right to his left rear bumper there and takes that air off just enough, and he kind of slides up the track. Like he's almost pushing Pandolf up the track, but he's not touching him at all. So it's definitely going to see what happens once they get a little bit closer. I mean, it looks like Pandolf's starting to slide up the track a little bit, almost as if he's waiting for the 54 of Jeffrey Banks to make that run on that inside line.
Yeah, and you know, the more James Pandolf runs this race looking in his rear view, the more Austin Collins just gets down the road. He has got a 7/10 lead over James Pandolf right now, and if these two are going to go back and forth, which by all means do it, it's great racing, it's great to watch, but Austin Collins is just going to stretch this lead out.
Yeah, he's definitely starting to do that. Jeffrey Banks is trying the outside, going to try the inside now. Got to run now. Let's see if we can take a look here on the nose of that 54 machine here.
So yeah, it looks like James Pandolf is getting caught in the most minuscule of neutral slide right there. You see his rear end coming out just a little bit, but he still has complete control of the car. You ideally would like to have that for the most pace around the corner, but it seems right here it might not be necessary because of how banked the corners are. So you see, although he is in that neutral slide, he's able to get a better exit speed. And I think that's why James Pandolf is staying in front of Jeffrey Banks here, is because he does have that neutral slide and he gets shot out of the exit of that corner like a cannon.
Yeah, it definitely looks like he is faster on exit and Banks is faster on entry as he starts to close the gap again, coming through middle part of that corner. But as you said, he gets on exit and Pandolf just drives away. And these top three cars are 2.5 seconds in front of Matt Burgess here.
Yeah, Matt Burgess and PJ O'Leary, who, if I'm not mistaken, had a little bit of a battle at Daytona last week towards the front of the pack. I think that was more in the beginning of the race, while Richard Springer was still up in the front. Speaking of Richard Springer, he is up 7 positions right now. He is currently in P7, started this race P14, and he has really shown some pace out here.
Yeah, it looks like he didn't quite get that qualifying lap, or maybe he just didn't have that speed. But here in race trim, he is staying pretty much even with even the leaders' lap times. Just looking through, I mean, last time Austin Collins won the 25:22, Richard Springer 25:34, so not that much difference in the lap times there. As Springer was able to
overtake.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Overtaking Sam Niederhelm there going into 1 and 2. And, you know, that's exactly, you know, what we were talking about. Lap 30, Sam Niederhelm just couldn't hold that optimal racing line. Richard Springer found the grip on the bottom line of the track, and he got it done. If you can get to the inside of your opponent there, then, you know, the overtake is extremely easy. Done and dusted. He's already, you know, half a second up the road.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you can get that nose and kind of get the car in front of you just enough out of that racing line, you can turn down and you can make that pass. But if you can't, I think passes are going to be kind of hard to come by. As looking back up front, Jeffrey Banks was able to get by James Pandolf. But Austin Collins is still 2.5 in front of Jeffrey Banks right now.
Yeah, the Austin Collins masterclass here, as he is 2.5 up the road on Jeffrey Banks. And I'm looking through this grid, and everybody seems to be pretty spread out. You know, you've got Matt Burgess and James Pandolf, who are now in some sort of a battle, not the biggest battle. Then you've got Sam Niederhelm and Harrison Chandler, who are in a little bit of a squabble. But other than that, these guys are just really doing their own thing. They're in their race. Or, excuse me, Harrison Chandler and Sam Niederhelm. I think I said Richard Springer and Harrison Chandler, but, you know, they're having a battle right now, and Sam Niederhelm is just falling down the grid order as he got passed by Richard Springer a few laps ago, and now overtaken by Harrison Chandler. Harrison Chandler looks like he's stretching the lead on him. So I just wonder if Sam Niederhelm maybe didn't rub up against the wall or something early in the race that we didn't see, maybe he's got some aero problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things. He's only dropped one position from where he started, so it's not like he's terrible, but he definitely is slower than everybody else on track, which could just be attributed to maybe either getting into that wall or using up your tires a little bit if you start sliding around. But Harrison Chandler fell back to almost 10th position, and now he's starting to make his way back towards the front. He was up in 3rd position when we started this race.
Yeah, running a 25.59, and Richard Springer running a 25.48, which is faster than the top 3 currently. So I do think we are going to start seeing we're in that kind of crossover period where guys that use the tires are starting to meet back up and slow down and link up with the guys who saved the tires.
Yeah, that's always the, I'll call it the dangerous part of the race, because you have the guys that are on the really worn tires, and they're coming back through the field, and you have the guys just charging through. And if anybody makes one little mistake, you know, trying to avoid each other, as we almost saw there behind Larry McKenzie, Dustin Musial, and Matt Metler, almost into that outside wall.
Yeah, they washed up big time, and same thing with Dustin Musial in this corner. But, you know, racing 2 wide and 3 wide, 3 wide like this at the Rock, you're going to experience that. If you're not on that lower side of the track, there's just no grip up there. Even though it is banked, there's just no grip, and you will find yourself in that wall extremely quick, no matter how grippy your tires are. So, unfortunately, for the 31 of Paul Plessier right there, and the 22 of Dustin Musial, that is happening to them currently. They need to slide back down and get into that optimal racing line, but Austin Collins is just putting on an absolute show right now.
Yeah, Austin Collins put in Robert Holder, Paul Peltier, and Dustin Musial a lap down. Now he has Matt Metler in front of him. And luckily for Austin Collins there, he hit those guys at just the right time as they were kind of sliding up the track. So he was able to take that optimal race line and make those passes without too much of an effort. But now he's kind of having a little bit of problem here with Matt Metler. As Matt was looked like he was a little bit faster there, but Austin Collins is trying to get a run on Metler and just can't seem to do it. And Jeffrey Banks has closed in on Austin Collins as he's been dealing with the lap traffic.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Matt Metler there, he gave it his all for a lap and a half, 2 laps, but he just could not keep Austin Collins behind him. As, you know, Matt Metler, I don't blame you. You know, he's fighting to stay on the lead lap there. No reason to just let them by, but, you know, you're getting lapped for a reason at the end of the day. So the pure pace of Austin Collins is just too much.
Yeah, he definitely slowed Austin Collins down, though, because his lead was almost a second and a half, 2 seconds back to Jeffrey Banks, and Jeffrey Banks now is 2/10 back. So he definitely definitely did a little damage there.
Yeah, lap traffic is going to be Jeffrey Banks' best friend here, because if Austin Collins does stretch out this lead again, then maybe lap traffic can, almost like a screen in basketball, it's going to hold him up just a tad bit, and that little bit of wiggling and a little bit of caution that Austin Collins has to show to get past that back marker, that's just time that Jeffrey Banks is going to have closing the gap to him.
Yeah, definitely. Looking back from Austin Collins to Jeffrey Banks, you can see just how fast Austin Collins kind of drives away, but Banks takes a little bit lower entry into the corner and kind of closes that gap some, but Austin Collins drives away on exit.
Yeah, and I think Austin Collins' exit speed is really what's setting him apart from Jeffrey Banks right now. And, you know, out of the corner, you know, Jeffrey Banks has that draft, so it should be, you know, pretty simple for him. But Austin Collins just, I really don't know what it is, but, you know, we're 46 laps in, and it still looks like that he shot out of a gun on exit. So he's clearly got something figured out. He is in tune with that number 1 car.
Yeah, he definitely is. And as you talked earlier, that his lowest speed going through the corner was like 122 or something. Now he's getting down to 118, kind of backing it up a little bit, doing a little bit slower through the corner, kind of roll it. And he still is almost a second faster than half the cars all the cars that are a lap down. So they are definitely starting to roll in on Austin Collins here.
Yeah, we'll see how Jeffrey Banks plays this, because there is lap traffic ahead for him. So we will see how he races this, because, you know, Austin Collins, there's a lot on his plate right now. He's leading a race. He's got a guy hot on his tail, and he's got to worry about passing these back markers. So, you know, just the margin of error for him is so extremely tiny that just one simple mistake can lead to just disaster. And disaster it might be, as Jeffrey Banks got an amazing run coming down the front stretch there and coming out of 2. We'll see what he can do with it.
Yeah, I think that was his chance to get in front of Austin Collins. Austin Collins made a little bit of a mistake coming out of 4 and got out of that optimum racing line, and Jeffrey Banks tried to make a run, just didn't quite have enough, and now Austin Collins is back in the groove once again.
Yeah, and it's going to be extremely difficult for Jeffrey Banks to make this overtake, I believe.
Back here we've got PJ O'Leary looking at the back bumper of James Pandolf. PJ O'Leary slides up the track almost into the wall there. Richard Springer, Matt Burgess side by side.
Richard Springer has put on a heck of a show tonight. You know, already we're only, you know, basically a 4th through this race, but being up 8 positions and just showing absolute blistering pace through this midfield is something crazy. For him to start P14, which is second to last in this grid here tonight, and be all the way up to P6 is pretty outstanding.
Yeah, definitely. As you were talking about him, he was sliding all over the place, but he able to keep the car underneath him and is now back to trying to get in front of Matt Burgess once again.
It looks like he might be able to make the move stick, but Matt Burgess is carrying a lot of speed around that top line, but unfortunately, I don't know if it'll be enough, as Richard Springer will have the inside line here for turn 1, which is definitely the better line. But as I say that, Matt Burgess is making it work around the outside. He is almost completely clear of Richard Springer. As, wow, you rarely see this at Rockingham, just absolutely storming through the top line, and he clears it off. He gets it done.
Yeah, Richard Springer keeps trying to dive down to the inside on exit of 2, and just looks like he seems to lose the car a little bit, and Matt Burgess stays up high and just is rocking that high line as they're side by side once again down the front stretch.
I think Richard Springer almost knows that top line is going to work and gets the overtake done now, but if they're taking 2 completely different lines here, then I don't see why Matt Burgess can't just get back out in front of him. But now Richard Springer washing his car up a little bit into those corners. So maybe just trying to play that middle line, defending both the inside and outside.
Yeah, so these guys are driving on almost 60 lap old tires. So we've got to be getting close to, I was going to say close to pit stops, but I don't know, that maybe they'll make it 15 more laps or so. But we've had,
unfortunately, I have no clue the pit window here.
Yeah, it looks like we've had a couple come in. Robert Holder and Dustin Musil. But these guys are just going crazy as Richard Springer down to the inside going to try and pass James Pandolf. And Harrison Chandler's not too far back there either.
Harrison Chandler made the overtake work on Matt Burgess as well, so you know, a lot of pace being shown right now from these two drivers.
And there goes Richard Springer again on exit, just gets loose. But he carried a ton of speed through there. Harrison Chandler is following Springer's back bumper as he makes the pass on Pandolf as well.
Yeah, and even though I love watching this Richard Springer show, Jeffrey Banks has passed Austin Collins.
Let's take a look here.
I'm not exactly sure how that happened or how long ago it did happen, but that is wild to me. Austin Collins was showing amazing pace there.
Ooh, Austin Collins washed up the track.
Yeah, just one simple mistake, and it lost him his P1 that he had been holding for 59 laps or so. So unfortunate for him, as they ran identical lap times last lap. So we'll get to see here who is really fastest, as Austin Collins is 400th faster that time around.
And definitely, and we see cars jump in the pit lane. We got James Pandolf in, Matt Burgess in. Matt Mettler stopped as well.
Yep, so around 63 is the early window, I would assume. So it looks like we are going to have probably a two-stopper here. I don't think anybody is going to be able to stretch it out for a one-stopper, but looks like who might be the universal strategy here tonight.
Yeah, I think you're pretty much going to be set in that two-stop strategy, because I mean they would have to make it like lap 97, and there's no way anybody wants to be out there on 30 more lap older tires than these guys that pitted now.
Yeah, I don't even know if the tires would survive that long, but who knows? Someone might be able to do it.
Yeah, definitely. But now Jeffrey Banks is the one that's going to have to deal with lap traffic. And not only lap traffic, but you're also going to have guys on fresher tires. So
yeah,
basically,
guys on fresher tires. Or sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Oh, you're good.
But guys on fresher tires, and you've got guys coming out of the pit lane. And this is a pretty narrow track, so on that backstretch, things might get a little sketchy. If these leaders are coming around and there's a guy fresh off pit road, maybe not going total race speed.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as you were talking there, it looks like James Pandolf got hit with a too fast entering, so he is on pit lane for quite a while there. Almost a minute 16.
Yeah, and unfortunately for him, almost the entire grid here is a lap down because of pit strategy. So if we get a caution right now, it's probably going to spell doom for James Pandolf.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much going to spell doom for half the field, almost. All right, now you have Jeffrey Banks, Austin Collins, Harrison Chandler, and PJ O'Leary that have yet to pit from the lead lap anyway.
Yeah, and to be 69 nice laps into a race as James Pandolf runs the purple lap, 24.43. But as I was saying, these guys are only around a second and a half, getting north of that, nearing 2 seconds off their best time, which for being 70 laps out, not bad. These guys are carrying the pace pretty well throughout this race.
Yeah, definitely. As Jeffrey Banks hit pit lane, that gave the lead back to Austin Collins. So he's gonna head out here, and looks like he's gonna run a couple more laps.
Yeah, hey, I mean, if you're comfortable with the car, there's no need to pit so early. So we'll see what Austin Collins can do. We'll see if he can stretch it out a little bit further. And it looks like he is not going to be coming in this lap.
Yeah, it also he's headed pit lane right now. I'll say as he's leading the race, if you stay out a little bit longer, you get those guys on those fresh tires. Maybe one of them makes a mistake and has that caution come out, and that just helps you even more.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of benefits to staying out later than everybody else, but there's also a lot of fall off that can happen with it. You know, you can get caught behind and you can hit some lap traffic that, since they're on fresher tires, it's going to be a little harder to overtake, and you're going to have to use up those freshly put on Goodyears, but just to make passes on people that, you know, you really don't want to be messing around with. So unfortunately for Austin Collins, that might be a big possibility here, as Harrison Chandler is leading the race. Chris Melton, who we really haven't seen up front yet tonight, he is 9 positions up. He has not pitted. So that's another thing that can come from the overcut. You get these guys who maybe aren't that experienced with leading the pack. You get them up there. That's great seat time for them, great experience. They know what it's like to be in those podium spots, and it just makes them an all-around better driver.
Yeah, definitely. He's 20 and a half seconds back of Harrison Chandler, but those two are the only guys on the lead lap right now. And Chandler is still not stopping.
Yeah, he, like I said with Austin Collins, he must be comfortable with the car, in tune with it even. But we see here the 74 of James Pandolf gonna get past him. But unfortunately, is James Pandolf 2 laps down or just 1?
He is like 3 laps down.
Ooh. Okay, so unfortunately for him, that's not the job done. I did not think he was that many laps down, but that is very unfortunate for him.
Looks like he's 3 laps down right at the moment. But he is, shall we say, driving angry. Because he put down the fastest lap, and it wasn't like barely the fastest lap. The 24:39, and the next fastest one, I believe, is a 24:51. So definitely put in the seat time and is making his way to the front here. Looks like Chris Milton hit pit lane. And the only one that has not yet is Harrison Chandler. Harrison Chandler has a 22, almost 23 second lead over Jeffrey Banks, who's back in second.
Yeah, that is almost an entire lap. These guys are running right now. They are running 24.69s, 24.77s, 24.67s from the guys with fresh tires. Harrison Chandler running at 26.18. So with that 21 second lead, I think now is the time. I think now is when you call it. I think you're not getting any sort of good result now from staying out longer.
No, you almost have to try and stay out as long as, I mean, either stay out until you completely run out, or you come in now, because you're going to spend 45 seconds, 46 seconds on pit lane getting 4 fresh tires and fuel. So, I don't know. You'll be a half lap down at least, probably, when you come out.
Yeah, but a half lap down, the is a lot better than getting past while you're still on those old tires. So unfortunately for Harrison Chandler, he's going nowhere but backwards right now as he is running a 26:15, 26:06 that lap. And with P2 Jeffrey Banks running a 25:05, you're losing a second a lap.
Yeah, so we'll watch until Chandler comes down pit lane, and then we'll take a break. But we got guys pitted on laps 69, 71, pretty much all over the place. Dustin Musil on lap 44, Robert Holder on 51, so maybe trying a little bit different strategy. But if Harrison Chandler can turn this race into a one-stop race, which he has to make it at least another 15 laps, I would say, before I'd feel too comfortable with it. But his lead's down to 16 seconds now, so
yeah, if he is going for the one stop, then I completely understand. But you know, in this fall off zone where you're a second slower than anybody else on the track, is stretching it out to a one stop going to net you any more time than if you would have just taken 2 normal stops?
I don't know, but doesn't look like he's stopping yet.
That is, I guess that's an engineer's job. That's why I'm not a race engineer. I'm not a race strategist. But you know, from the eyes up here in the booth, I just don't know if it makes sense to me to stretch this out to a one stop. I know I said pre-race or early on in the race, whenever it was, that was a real possibility, the one stop strategy was. But I really didn't expect it to happen.
No, I think that 70 lap-ish is probably where you want to be, but if he can, I mean, he's going to have to hold on and stay out for 9-10 more laps at least to feel comfortable anyway towards the end of this race, especially with the green flag laps that these guys are running.
And to be fair, Harrison Chandler looks like he's in complete control of that car. You know, we thought that, you know, the worn tires would cause people to slide up the track, but I think in all reality, it's just making them tight and not able to extract any power on the exit of the corner.
Yeah, it definitely seems like that. I mean, these guys start to catch him going into the corner and then just almost blows doors off on corner exit. So definitely seems like he has no drive off the corner. But I mean, if you are going to basically turn this into a one-stop race, you're almost banking that that 46 seconds you're going to save in the pit is going to be enough to get you that get you to victory lane there.
Yeah, and when you put it into a number like that, when you give it a numerical value, 46 seconds, that doesn't actually sound too bad. Seems like, I'm trying to run through the numbers in my head, but I think that it might be close. Now, granted, I didn't go to college. I can barely do long division anymore. I'm getting old. But the numbers do seem to halfway add up.
Yeah, it all depends on how long he can make it. Or if we have some caution laps that help him save a little bit more fuel. But if he can turn this into a one-stop race, like I said, he's going to save 45, 46 seconds on pit lane because he won't have that stop that everybody else is making. So we'll see what happens as he's working 91 here. Just completed 91. So I mean, if he can make it, I mean, exactly halfway is about 6 more laps.
Yeah, I mean, if he can make it, then it's the potential's there. It's unlocked. Then he has done it. But the only thing is, will he be able to keep this pace up for the second stint? A lot of drivers, when they go for, you know, a super long stint race like this, he 22 washes up and unfortunately hits Harrison Chandler, but did not spin him out. So good on those drivers for being able to clean up the mess almost instantly, maybe even before it was created, you'd say. But if Harrison Chandler can have an identical second stint to this, then it might just work.
Harrison Chandler sounds like he's coming into pit lane. So not quite halfway. But we will see if it was going to happen the second half of the race. But as he does that, we're going to go ahead and step aside and we'll go side by side here, and you won't miss anything. But we'll be right back with the Dynasty Racing League Pro Series from Rockingham. Welcome back, everybody, once again to the Dynasty Racing League Pro Series. Didn't miss anything as we saw early domination by Austin Collins and Jeffrey Banks. Jeffrey Banks is still leading this race, and it looks like with everybody hitting pit lane and all the dispersion there, he's got a little over 2 1/4 second lead and nobody really around him at the moment.
Yeah, nobody
Matt,
really around him. Oh, so sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, I was going to say Austin Collins, who put on a show for the first I don't even know how many laps it was, 50, 55 laps. He is unfortunately in the opposite position now.
Yeah, just sitting back there trying to figure out what he can do to run a little bit faster. He is running faster than Jeffrey Banks, but not by enough to really matter, it looks like. Matt Burgess is also pretty much by himself, has 7.5 in front, 3.5 behind him. Richard Springer, ooh, as I don't know who that was because they're all mixed together here. That was Paul Pelsier and Dave Acacia that got together there a little bit. Richard Springer's trying to figure out a way around those two as they were battling door to door.
He's going to shoot the gap high and low. He is going to get to the bottom side of the 31 of Paul Pellissier, and he is going to get it done around him. So, fortunately for him, not much lap traffic in his immediate vicinity.
Matt Mettler and Dustin Musial side by side there for a little bit. Richard Springer going to try and pass Musial here. PJ O'Leary following him through as well.
Yeah, PJ O'Leary, who had a very loud race at Daytona in terms of just always being active, always overtaking, always somewhere in the fold when it came to the leaders. He has had a little bit more of a quiet week here at the Rock here in week 2. He has been more of a mid-pack driver right now, biding his time until late race, I can assume.
Yeah, definitely trying to figure out a good race strategy here. But right now, you have Jeffrey Banks. Harrison Chandler is still a lap down right at the moment after staying out to lap 94, which is a little over 23 laps or so from when the rest of the field pitted. So Harrison Chandler definitely going to try that one-stop race and see if maybe that's going to bring him some luck tonight.
Yeah, it's either going to give him some luck or he is going to be totally despondent for about 50 laps here, because here in a little bit, I think it'll be within the next 30 or 35, maybe 40 laps. We're going to see exactly what it can do, because these guys will be on their second stop. Harrison Chandler is going to continue to run around the Rockingham Speedway here, and we're going to be able to visualize and get an idea of if this one stop is going to pay off.
Yeah, and he's basically committed himself to that one-stop race, which is fine if he can make it, but he made it 94 laps, so I don't know if that's 94 and he was out of fuel, because if it was, he's going to have to stop again anyway. It's not going to, there's no way he's saving that much fuel, especially with the lap times he's running right now.
I mean, he could always hit the little ignition switch, you know, going into those corners, you know, pull a little Kyle Busch on him. But, yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be extremely difficult to save for that long and not just lose an absolute boatload of time because of it. So, interesting to see. But, you know, we got Jeffrey Banks here in the lead, 1.3 second lead over Austin Collins. And, you know, these guys are just going back and forth, really. We saw Austin Collins have his lead, and now we're seeing Jeffrey Banks.
Yeah, definitely. Matt Burgess has the 24 of Larry McKenzie Jr. on his back bumper there for a little bit. Everybody's kind of spread out. The closest battle on track, I believe, is going to be this one here between PJ O'Leary and Richard Springer. And that's even about 0.3 apart.
Yeah, and Harrison Chandler is back on the lead lap. So in that case, that means if he did, I I'm sorry, he is actually the last person to, or he is the first person to not be on the lead lap. I thought he was on the lead lap, and then my timing changed, and it turns out he's not on the lead lap. But in the event that he does get back on the lead lap, he can abort this strategy whenever he wants. You know, if he's on the lead lap, then he is there. He is equal playing field. It is level game in the event of a caution. So if the yellow comes out and he wants to abort the strategy, he can do that if he gets back on the lead lap.
Yeah, right now, he is probably, I'm going to say, about 6 seconds behind Jeffrey Banks right now. So Jeffrey Banks is going to probably come to pit lane, I'm going to say probably 20 more laps or so. If he's trying to, I'd say trying to split it into thirds, but it'll give him fresher tires for the end of the race.
Ooh, we saw some smoke there at the start of pit road. Not sure what happened there. Dustin Musil in. I'm not sure if he intentionally came in or not, because we did see the smoke there at the start of pit lane. So I wonder if he might have just got loose into 4 and just the trajectory of his car just took him into pit road involuntarily.
I don't know, but as we're flipping through there, up front, the battle is heating up as Austin Collins is all over that back bumper of Jeffrey Banks here.
And these guys electing to back up their corners a little bit, which is something you didn't see early in the race, but Austin Collins had to defend from Jeffrey Banks for, a pretty long time, so Austin might have a theory on what will work the best when it comes to overtaking Jeffrey Banks here, so we'll see if he can get that to work. It looks like he might be trying to execute an overtake here going into turn 1. They are side by side, but Jeffrey Banks is going to have a little bit more momentum along that outside line. But they are side by side for the second corner in a row. Austin Collins does have the shortest way around the track, but Jeffrey Banks does have the momentum. This lap goes to Jeffrey Banks. And I'm sure they're going to be stuck doing this for a while, but Austin Collins gets a little bit ahead there.
Yeah, side by side through multiple corners and down the backstretch once again. Austin Collins down low, Banks up high, and Banks is able to get the speed coming off of the corner to just pull even with Collins. Collins takes the shortest way around the track, gets the nose in front for that lap. And it looks like he's slowly getting, I'll say beating Jeffrey Banks there into submission here as we see Matt Mettler merging in from pit lane.
Yeah, merging in from pit lane. So Austin Collins actually going to set into that corner with a little more speed. If he can keep it tight, he might be able to work and get the overtake. And wow, it is so close. But yeah, you're exactly right. He's just inch by inch getting a little bit further ahead of Jeffrey Banks. And if this continues, then we might see the position done and dusted. But now Jeffrey Banks has his nose out in front halfway down the back stretch.
Side by side they go.
Yeah, these two gentlemen are putting on an absolute show right now.
They're not giving each other any room right there. There's one goes faster, and then here comes the other one just as quick. And as that battle's going on, look who's showing up here in the third place here on the track, and that's Harrison Chandler. Harrison Chandler's not too far to the back here.
Yeah, I was gonna mention it. Them battling was just giving Harrison Chandler just a little bit of lap time on them, just a little bit of lap time, and here we go. This is the biggest opportunity of Harrison Chandler's night here. If he can get in front of these two guys, that is his lap back.
Yeah, he wants to see him up there battling some more as he is slowly reeling them in. And now he has them side by side. Looks like he's going to fall on Austin Collins. Austin Collins is still not able to clear Jeffrey Banks here. But Harrison Chandler is all over that back bumper, going to try and get his lap back the hard way here. as we climb on board.
Yeah, and with these two drivers taking completely different lines around this racetrack, it's almost like a wall for Harrison Chandler. He cannot get past. He's got to figure something out, and fast. He's got to shoot the smallest of gaps if he wants to make this work. Oh,
Austin
but
Collins gets loose.
Loose for Austin Collins, and that's really unfortunate for him, but now Harrison Chandler has fended off one. He's got to go get the other one. And the lap traffic might allow him to do that.
Yeah. Lap car, the 31, almost acts like a pick here, as it looks like Jeffrey Banks does not want to make it 3 wide, so he jumps down and follows Chandler through Austin Collins into pit lane.
Yeah, Austin Collins, unfortunately, probably wanted to stay out a little longer, but, you know, with that little mistake he had coming out of 4, that's a good time to just chalk it up and get your second stop in.
Yeah, it really doesn't hurt him that much because everybody's going to have to make another stop except for maybe Chandler, but I'm pretty sure Chandler's going to have to too. But Chandler got his lap back, so he's on pretty much equal footing at the moment.
Yeah, on equal footing, you are exactly right. And we've got two drivers here, Dustin Musil and Matt Mettler, as they have taken their extra stop, and they are going to be super quick here as Jeffrey Banks gets passed by Matt Mettler. But the stars are starting to align for Harrison Chandler, I think.
Yeah, I mean, right now, he's sitting in 3rd place. Richard Springer just came down pit lane, so now he's up to 2nd. Yes, he's almost basically a lap behind Jeffrey Banks, but if he can make that one stopper work, I mean, that's going to be an amazing strategy call by whoever helped him do that.
Yeah, and especially with Harrison Chandler running 0.4 faster than Jeffrey Banks right now, he is just eating into that gap, as now Jeffrey Banks decides to come in and give it the second stop. So Harrison Chandler has now just essentially got to drive a perfect race here. He still has decent pace. He ran a 25.5, so he is just south of a second slower than his fastest, which isn't bad considering he is 35 laps, I believe, into this strategy. 31 laps into the strategy. And he has got an extremely long way to go if he is going to pull this one stop off. But, I mean, the clock is ticking. It has started. He must now go into saving mode, I think.
Well, that's going to be the problem, because we saw how fast he was on those, fresher tires than Collins and Jeffrey Banks was. But last time he was out here, he had a much bigger lead. He only has a 12.5 second lead right now. So it's going to be hard for him to stretch it these final 60 plus laps and save fuel.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I wasn't really looking at the gap, but you're exactly right. He's got a 30-second lead over P4, which is Chris Melton. But P2 and P3, Austin Collins and Jeffrey Banks here, they are within 20 seconds. Austin Collins 11 seconds, like you said. So, yeah, he is going to get caught pretty quick. But if he wanted to stick to this strategy, there is a good chance that it nets him a podium here.
Yeah, I definitely think as long as he can make it to the end, I don't necessarily see there's any way he's not getting at least P3. I mean, but these other two drivers that are behind him, they're not saving anything anymore. They just both put down the fast. Well, Austin Collins the lap before, but this lap here, Jeffrey Banks put down that purple lap of 24:34, so he is not messing around, and he is closing that gap as quick as he can.
Yeah, unfortunately for Harrison Chandler, I had hope. I really did. I really thought he knew something that was going to blow my mind, but unfortunately, I just don't think that is the case, as Austin Collins is 8 seconds back and gaining extremely fast, running almost a second faster than him each lap, so that is really tough for Harrison Chandler, but I don't think all hope is lost. I do think he can yield a good result here.
Yeah, he's gonna, I mean, I think the only way he gets a podium is if he stays out and makes it to the end. Otherwise, he's gonna be back in 7th or 8th position, probably.
Yeah, but the good news for him is Austin Collins and Jeffrey Banks are only going to get slower. They are, you know, their tires aren't going to last forever. Although they do have almost 30 lap fresher tires than he does, they will eventually slow down. And there is a point where worn tires are just worn tires. And Austin Collins and Harrison Chandler and Jeffrey Banks should all be traveling around the same speed around this racetrack. But
Definitely.
can Harrison Chandler defend until that point?
Yeah, you just have to hope that you're going to be able to hang on, or maybe Austin Collins and Jeffrey Banks just run into lap traffic and you can kind of stay in the clear a little bit. But it's going to be tough because he's got, what, over 50 laps left to go, so.
Yeah, over 50 laps. That is an extremely long time here, as, you know, it's got to be weighing in on his mind right now, like, ooh, I might not have picked the greatest strategy for tonight. Or the stars can align and he gets on victory lane and we're going to sit up here and think, wow, that was the greatest strategy we've ever seen.
Well, that's kind of one of those things when you talk about, you know, the different pit strategies, especially in these races like this. I mean, if you can one-stop a race like this, I mean, I think he pitted a little too early, but if he could make it work, I mean, even for a podium, that's going to be, you know, quite the positive here. But that's the excitement. That's the way, you know, some of these guys are going to get wins, is they were a better strategist. Ugh.
Strategist.
There you go. Anyway, Austin Collins is closing in. He's within under a second and a half here, so Chandler does have a lap car between himself and Austin Collins. But I don't know that that's going to matter too much momentarily.
Yeah, and, you know, maybe it works out tonight for him. Maybe it doesn't. But, I mean, big shout out to Harrison Chandler for even attempting it. You know, if you're in a hosted session or, you know, whatever, you're goofing off with friends and you go for the one-stop, sure, you know. But to come out here into a highly competitive league where there's prizes on the line at the end of the season, every single race counts. To even think about this strategy is one thing, but to execute it and to really convince people that it might just work is another thing. So, you know, all the respect in the world to Harrison Chandler for, you know, at least trying this strategy, because as Austin Collins squeezes around the outside there, gets the overtake on him. Unfortunate for Harrison Chandler, but that was a really clean overtake on the side of Austin Collins. But, you know, if you're not necessarily the fastest car out there, Harrison Chandler is going to elect to pit. But if you're not the fastest car out there, this is how you've got to get your results. you've got to think out of the box. You've got to be, just unorthodox in how you approach the strategy of a race. And he almost made it work.
Yeah, I think he was going to stay out as long as he could until until either Austin Collins or Jeffrey Banks passed him, and then he hit pit lane. I mean, we've got 47 laps left. I'm sure he's going to be happier on a little fresher tires here. But like I said, he's going to probably go down to 7th or 8th position and then have to try and battle his way back up. And who knows, the race ain't over yet. I mean, you had a couple of those yellow flags and everything can change.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're definitely exactly right, but the way these guys have been driving, what a show from the roster of the Dynasty Racing League here tonight. They call it the Pro Series for a reason, and these drivers are showing it here tonight. Nothing but respect and, just trustworthiness and friendliness out of these drivers tonight. They are opponents on the grid and in the service, but, they treat each other with massive respect on the racetrack, and that's all you can really ask for.
Yeah, definitely. But right now, looks like we are left with 4 cars on the lead lap. So after everybody made their pit stop, which James Pandolf is back in on pit lane.
Yeah, not exactly sure what happened to him.
Doesn't look like anything. Anything really. Looks like he just elected to come down.
Matt Medler with some trouble, it looked like.
Yeah, it looks like Matt Medler lost something and stopped on the backstretch, jumped to the pits. So lucky for everybody out there, we stay green.
We stay green, and third time is the charm. We have been greeted with this battle twice now, looking at 3 times between Austin Collins and Jeffrey Banks. And Jeffrey Banks got it done the first time. Austin Collins got it done the second time. So this is the tiebreaker and potentially for the race win, as third place is 19.22 seconds behind Jeffrey Banks. So if everything goes fine here and, there's no yellows, no spins, no wall taps, we're looking at a 2-horse race here to the finish. And these guys, I promise you, are going to be neck and neck until that checkered flag.
Yeah, definitely. This time, Jeffrey Banks goes down to the inside. Austin Collins has to be on the high side. And Collins gets the run on exit. Banks gets the run on entry. And here we go. I think we've seen this race before.
Yeah, we've seen this race before. Unfortunately, Austin Collins used to run in that bottom line. Gets a little squirmy exiting on the top line and gets a little bit behind Jeffrey Banks here, as while that was going on, James Pandolf in P11 runs the fastest lap of the race with a 24.23.
Definitely did. So while these guys are all battling it out, we're going to take our last commercial break, and we'll bring you home to the finish here of the Dynasty Racing League Pro Series. We'll be back momentarily. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Dynasty Racing League Pro Series from Rockingham. Up front, we have Jeffrey Banks driving away now from Austin Collins. PJ O'Leary back in third, and Matt Burgess in fourth. Those are the 4 cars on the lead lap. Richard Springer trying to get back there, as well as Harrison Chandler, who was going to try and do that one-stop race, but after he got past, elected to bring it to pit lane, try and get some lap time back with those fresher tires. But what do you think we have to look forward to, Mac, for the end of this race here?
I really think it's just the battle between Jeffrey Banks and Austin Collins. I mean, these two drivers have been in a league of their own tonight. They have mastered the rock, and they are netting extreme pace and hopefully good results if everything goes their way here.
Yeah, definitely. They've been the 2 cars up front, and they've been pretty much putting on a clinic up here, battling each other side by side for multiple laps as we're getting inside 30 to go. Richard Springer's the first car a lap down, but he's not really gaining on the top 2, even though they're just in front of him at the moment.
Yeah, you know, like I said, the pace between these top 2 guys have been, you know, phenomenal. And, you know, for these guys to not be, like, if something were to happen to these guys, and, you know, one spins out, one hits the wall, damages their car, whatever, it would be an absolute heartbreaker for everybody in the 54 and 1 camps, because they have just put on, I say it a lot, but a masterclass, truly a masterclass. These guys, I can only think of one mistake that either of them have made, and that was Austin Collins kind of getting a little loose coming out of turn 2 when Jeffrey Banks was passing him, which has led to this lead that Jeffrey Banks has. But Austin Collins has really shrunken that down. 3 laps ago, it was a 1-second gap, and now it is a half-second gap. So we are looking at possibly a battle up until the checkered flag.
Yeah, these two guys have been going back and forth. It's almost a cat and mouse game here of who goes quick first and who has that late run or long run speed, because Austin Collins was out for a little bit, but Jeffrey Banks seems to have that more of a short run setup in that car, but Austin Collins always comes back and battles back, and they were side by side for, like I said, multiple laps there, even on worn tires. So these guys definitely want to put on a show, and are definitely going to do so before we come to the end of this race.
Yeah, and if we're lucky, Austin Collins might get a run, and this battle might start very, very soon here. But I know one thing's for sure. These guys are not going to give an inch when it comes to surrendering right now. These guys have drove such an amazing race, had perfect strategies. They cannot afford to give anything up right now. But what lies ahead, Mike, is lap traffic. We saw it earlier in the race with Harrison Chandler, and then earlier than that, we saw it with these two, where, like we said, those lap cars almost offer as a pick for these guys, and it's hard to get around them. It's very hard to get around them, so it allows for this second place car, which would be Austin Collins in this situation, to grab a cheeky overtake heading into a corner or maybe down the back or front stretch, as, you know, that's something to look out for.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when they start to get to the lap traffic, if the car chasing can kind of set up the car it's pursuing and use that lap car almost as a pick, we've seen it work a couple times, but now Austin Collins is sliding back up the track a little ways. Seems to be wanting to be up there a little bit more, but his car earlier, on the earlier run when they were side by side, was down almost on that yellow line, but seems like more speed's been coming out of that top line the later in this race we get.
Yeah, you are most certainly right, but I almost think that Austin Collins might be better off taking the low line because, you know, he's obviously watching Jeffrey Banks right now, Jeffrey is going for that low line and unfortunately is not able to make it work as well as Austin Collins was earlier in the race, I believe. So is that something Austin Collins wants to kind of force there? You know, down on that yellow line, as he is going to do exactly that right now. Unfortunately, not enough room to get it done there, but he washes back up into the into one of the higher lines.
Yeah, it definitely looks like he's almost like he's trying to figure out where he wants to be. Kind of driving in the mirror half the time as we are with 20 laps to go here. Trying to see if there's any other battles on track, and they're really not. Everybody's pretty well spread out as far as on track goes. Like Harrison Chandler was able to get around Richard Springer and now is just that one lap down. He's the first car a lap down. So if we do get one of those yellow flags, he will be set pretty well here to make a run towards the end of this race.
Yeah, set pretty well, but the only problem is if he is that lucky dog, he will not be able to pit for tires, which will be something that these leaders will most definitely do, considering they are on almost 60 lap old tires at this point, as we are 18 to go. And Austin Collins, buddy, the time is now to start finding that little bit of extra pace. You know, you said it, you know, a few minutes ago, he was experimenting almost with those lines, trying to figure out what kind of line he wanted to take around this racetrack. And unfortunately for him, it is just not seeming to work right now. So we will see if he can find a style that suits him.
Yeah, he's going to have to find something here, because if not, that Guns N' Roses machine of Jeffrey Banks is going to walk away with the win. The other thing, just because we just looked at it here, is Matt Burgess is just in front of him. So Harrison Chandler doesn't necessarily want to see these top two guys get around Matt Burgess, because that means he's got to try and get another lap.
Yeah, that is going to spell disaster for Harrison Chandler in that event. But to be honest with you here, Mike, I don't know if we're going to see a yellow. These drivers have been extremely clean. We said it time and time again. These guys have been extremely clean, extremely respectful, and, you know, extremely fast around this circuit. So no reason anybody except Matt Burgess now wants a yellow flag here.
Yeah, the other thing, if we did happen to get one, I'm going to say almost everybody that's a lap down or multiple laps down is probably just going to stay out and take that wave around and try and at least get some track position back. But that's for another conversation, as we're 13 laps to go with Jeffrey Banks and Austin Collins battling up front here for the lead.
Yeah, and the gap increasing. Half a second gap between Jeffrey Banks and Austin Collins, as last time around, actually I'll get you numbers for this time around since they are crossing the start finish line to make it 12 to go. Jeffrey Banks running a 24.34, Austin Collins running a 24.58. So Jeffrey Banks is putting down faster laps. Austin Collins is starting to run out of steam just a tad bit. Let's see if he can rekindle some grip, rekindle some pace, and track him back down.
Yeah, he's going to have to figure out something with only 11 laps to go. But it's pretty much going to be those two, because PJ O'Leary is now 23 seconds back of the leader. He's almost going to be coming up in the front windshield of Jeffrey Banks in about 2 or 3 seconds here.
Yeah, and if you're PJ O'Leary, honestly, you know, you have that interval of 3.37 seconds to Matt Burgess, and Matt Burgess is actually gaining on him. So in that event, do you really even care if Jeffrey Banks and Austin Collins come around you?
The way this race is going, probably not, but definitely want to try and finish on the lead lap. But
yeah, it's always a plus for sure.
But yeah, these two drivers up front have just put on a clinic. I mean, you can see that gap here from Austin Collins now to Jeffrey Banks. It's just growing with every lap, every inch. Looking back now towards Austin Collins, and before you'd almost see Austin Collins kind of close in, but now it's not happening like it was before. So 8 laps to go. We'll see what happens with the 54 and the 1 here.
Yeah, and it just looks like Jeffrey Banks is managing that understeer of those worn tires a lot better than Austin Collins is. Almost using the understeer to propel himself into the corners at super high speeds so he can gain that little bit of time on entry, and then slowing the car way down mid-corner and then getting back on the throttle as soon as his car is set and has that slip angle to exit with no hassle. And you know, Jeffrey Banks is just really wheeling it right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it almost looks like he's, I'd say, almost double apexing the corners, because he, you know, hits almost down on that yellow line, drifts up about halfway through the corner, and then just gets his car to set down just right and floors it right off.
Yeah, and you know, to be how many ever laps, we're on lap 191, I believe, 192 now. For him to be on, you know, almost 60 lap old tires and only running about 1.3 seconds slower than his best lap, that is absolutely incredible pace for that old of tires. And, you know, I'm not sure what's going to happen. The gap is 0.6 of a second back to Austin Collins. But Jeffrey Banks has drove one heck of a race here tonight.
Yeah, he definitely has. The only thing that's going to get in his way is this lap traffic, as he's trying to deal with another car here, but like he's getting them at almost the right time here. Gets around
Chris Melton there, I believe.
Yeah, it looks like 78, yeah. Austin Collins back behind him now. But Jeffrey Banks, you can see PJ O'Leary kind of in front of him now too, so 3 laps to go, soon to be 2, as he gets to that start-finish line here.
Gets to that start-finish line. Gap to Austin Collins is now half a second, just a little north of that at 0.53. So coming out of 4 here, Jeff Banks will be taking the white flag for one more time around Rockingham.
Yeah, definitely. These guys definitely need a huge round of applause. I mean, I know they're clean racers and stuff, but 197 laps at Rockingham without a caution. I mean, these guys are driving amazing here.
Yeah, driving amazing is exactly the words I was looking for. And as he comes out of turn 4, the 54 Chevrolet of Jeffrey Banks is going to take the checkered flag here at Rockingham. What an absolute masterclass from Jeffrey Banks in the Guns N' Roses machine. Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah, Jeffrey Banks, like you said, master class. These guys are definitely knew what to do and where to be.
As Jeffrey Banks is going to enjoy himself down at that start-finish line. He deserves it. He absolutely deserves it.
Let's see. Get PJ O'Leary up here. All right. Mac, I believe you're going to be with PJ.
PJ, man, Mac up here in the booth. How are you feeling?
I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry. I'm feeling pretty good.
Well, you definitely drove an outstanding race here tonight. Unfortunately, P1 and 2 were just insanely fast here tonight. But, walk me through what exactly your strategy was here tonight.
Well, in practice, I thought I had a really good car to contend for the win, but yeah, I think that that was proven wrong in the race. Yeah, we had nothing but the top two. Austin and Jeffrey were the class of the field tonight. In my opinion, both of them deserved the win. Jeffrey, though, he drove a heck of a race, so congrats to him. But my strategy is try to run as smooth as I could and try to run as clean as I could, keep the car out of trouble. Hopefully come away with a good finish. I've always been good at Rockingham no matter what car I'm in. So, knowing that, and I had a poor qualifying effort too, which I was pretty mad about. So I'm glad that I was able to rebound from that bad qualifying effort I had. And so I'm sixth and wound up finishing third.
Yeah, you drove your butt off here tonight. You absolutely made everybody back at the 29 camp happy for sure. And, you said it last week. You're running Kevin Harvick's scheme. You're inching very, very close to that win that you wanted to get for him. So who do you have to thank for tonight's performance?
Well, obviously Kevin Harvick for being one of my favorite drivers as long as he has. I wouldn't be running his schemes if it wasn't for being a fan of him for such a long time, all through all of the good, the bad, and indifferent. Reese's for being on the car, Shell Pennzoil, GM Goodwrench, Chevrolet, of course my two personal sponsors, the Gabby Petito and Christina Grimmie Foundations. Running those foundations in honor of those two young ladies we've lost over the past few years. So, trying to think of the sponsors. Ream is one of them. I know that's on the car. Sylvania's on the car somewhere, I think. Team Realtree, AC Delco, all the sponsors that Kevin had throughout his career that we're bringing back as like throwback cars, so to speak, for this series and for the Gen 4 Cup Series as well.
Yeah, well, like I said, you drove an outstanding race, and enjoy your P3 tonight, man.
Thank you. Oh, and it's okay if I thank a few more people.
Yeah, man. The floor is yours.
I know.
Thank 'em.
I literally just thought of these. Yeah, JP for keeping the league going as long as it has. You guys for broadcasting. My teammates, Austin, Matt, Sam Niederhelm was with us tonight. Robert Holder, who I think he made his first start tonight, and he left the race early. I think you have to beat traffic early or something. He wasn't having a very good day, but he's getting used to these cars and all these tracks he runs. So pretty cool to see him come out here and try his hand running with us. And I now do believe that is it. All my teammates and JP, you guys, all that.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, PJ, and have a good night.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, Austin, Mike up in the booth. How's it going, man?
It could be doing a little bit better, but we're here, so it's not too bad.
Well, you had one of the dominant cars. I mean, you guys battled it all night. Were you a little bit worried with when you saw Harrison Chandler out there trying to do that one stop?
The one stop didn't really worry me too much. I knew it'd be real close of him making it for one, and just the amount of time you lose out there. I know after like 40 laps, I was ready to come get some tires, so I couldn't imagine staying out there for well over 90 laps. So I knew that the one stop would be real difficult because of this tire wear around Rockingham here. So my biggest worry tonight, all night, was that 54 car, and at the end, it was a good reason to worry about him.
Yeah, it definitely was. You guys look like you might have had a little bit better car set up for that long run, but after that second pit stop, the 54 just was able to kind of inch away from you as you guys made their way around the track there.
Yeah, like I said, we started on pole. We led quite a bit there at the beginning. I know I had a pretty decent gap to him, about a 2-second gap or a little bit less to him, and a bunch of lab cars got in the way. Lost a lot of time there. I really let him get on my bumper. But after those pit stops, later in the run, I learned that the top side was pretty good after kind of search around, and ended up running him back down. And I tell I was faster than him on that second run, on the long run. And so I figured, let me try to pit early, come in before him, and try to get out in front and hold that top. But it didn't come in quick enough, and he was able just to get in front of me. And by the time it came in, he had already pulled away, and I ran him back down. But he knew what he was doing, and he just took that top lane from me. Did all he had to do. So it was a good battle. It was a lot of fun.
Definitely was. You guys running 197 laps, caution free. Congrats on that. Anybody you want to thank for that P2 finish?
Yeah, I think all my teammates down at XLR tonight. I had PJ, Sam, and Matt. Robbie was with us, but I think he had some misfortunes. He left us pretty early. I got to thank you all for doing the broadcast. You do a great job. Back and watched last week's. That was awesome. I got to thank JP for putting on the league. Without it, we wouldn't have anywhere to race here tonight. All the drivers that showed up, and Team Watson Racing Setups. I got to thank them for hopping on board. If you ever need setups, y'all can go check them out.
Definitely. I will let you go celebrate that P2 finish tonight, and maybe we'll talk to you next week from Vegas.
Yep, hopefully. Y'all have a good one.
So, Mac, you should be with Jeffrey Banks now.
Yes, sir. Jeffrey Banks, man, driver of the 54. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you?
You know, I'm doing a lot better now that I just witnessed what was an amazing race that you and Austin Collins put on. You know, not to downplay any of the rest of the grid. They're all talented drivers, but you two just ran away with this race. Walk me through it.
Well, yeah, it was kind of a battle between he and I as far as who could get out in front of each other. I think he slipped up a couple times the first time I got around him, and then he short pitted that last stint by about 4 or 5 laps, and I got about 5 seconds behind. So I honestly thought that was going to be the race, but I finally got back to him, and luckily I was able to get around him without having to use too much tire. I just think it was a battle of who had the most tire at the end because they were really grinding.
Yeah, you know, we saw early in the race Austin Collins electing to take that low line for almost every single corner. You were taking the top line and you were making it stick, you were making it work, and later on in the race it looked like Austin Collins tried to almost adopt that style of driving on the high line. Unfortunately, he just couldn't get it done like you could. So was that something that you planned on coming into the race?
I practiced it a little bit in practice just to kind of see if there was anything there. I feel like in the early part of the run, the bottom was still kind of the way to go to kind of save your tires. But after about 20 or 30 laps, it seemed like the high line was at least anywhere from 2 to 3 tenths a lap faster. So he was starting to catch me at the end running a high line, and then I had to go back to it to kind of take the line away to maintain the lead.
Yeah, you know exactly. It was just a battle of, or a story of giving and taking, I should say. But you won the race here tonight. You got it done. Who do you have to thank for tonight?
Just James and everybody as a part of this league to inviting me out to race. You know, I don't get to race as much as I used to anymore, and being able to race in a league like this as caution free, it was a blast. You don't really get to see 197 laps of caution free racing, so just a shout out to James and the Dynasty Racing League. It was a lot of fun, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, good to see for you guys, and also good to see for us watching. You know, you drove your butt off here tonight, man. You're the winner here at Rockingham. Go enjoy your victory.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a good weekend.
Yes, sir. You too.
All right, so bring up the official results. Jeffrey Branks and Austin Collins, 2 dominant cars, finished 1-2. PJ O'Leary back in 3rd. Matt Burgess in 4th. Harrison Chandler gets up to 5th. Richard Springer 6th. Sam Niederhelm in 7th. Chris Melton 8th. Larry McKenzie Jr. in 9th. James Pandolf back to 10th.
Yeah, Dave Acacia. I still don't know if I'm getting that name. In P11, Paul Pellissier. In P12, Dustin Musil, P13. Matt Medler in P14, and unfortunately for Rob Holder, his race ended pretty early, getting that P15 spot.
Definitely, but these guys put on a dynamite show. If you guys enjoyed that, join us here tomorrow night as they jump into the Gen 4 cars for, I'm going to say, probably about the same number of laps here at Rockingham. But for all of us at Sim Racing Media and all the drivers of the Dynasty Racing League, we will see you tomorrow night. Good night, everybody.